The FIA has tightened the regulations on rear wing bending after being dissatisfied with what they observed in Australia. It looks like Red Bull was right, which explains their optimism in catching up with McLaren. However, with upcoming races in China and Japan where teams like McLaren might see some performance dips, will this be enough to reshuffle the rankings, or will the MCL39 continue to be the top car on the grid? The issue of rear wing bending has sparked the most debate this 2024 season. Just as it seemed resolved, the situation stirred up again in Australia. Reports indicate that the governing body was not happy with certain F1 teams in Melbourne due to small gaps reducing car drag. As a response, they've introduced stricter rules and tests for the next 2 races, following the FIA's request for teams to use cameras to monitor how their cars' structures flex during practice sessions in Melbourne. An interesting development unfolded. After reviewing the footage, the FIA concluded that there was ample proof to enforce stricter tests on the upper rear wing in the upcoming Shanghai event, even though previously all the cars were found to be compliant with the rules. Given the upcoming Chinese Grand Prix, it's likely we won't see significant performance changes in the cars just yet. However, starting from Suzuka, the gap between the main plane and the flap, known as the slot gap, must not change by more than 0.5 millimeters once we reach Shanghai. Because the Chinese GP is approaching fast, there will be a temporary allowance of an extra 0.25 millimeters added to this limit, though the 0.5 millimeter rule will eventually take full effect after Suzuka. An official letter was released after the Australian GP, which stated, after reviewing footage of the rear wing deformations along with measurements taken in the FIA garage in Melbourne, the FIA determined that there is a solid basis for introducing a stricter test for the Chinese GP concerning the upper rear wing. Specifically, Article 315.17, which will take effect in 2025, indicates that if a 75 kilo vertical load is applied to any end of the rear wing's main plane, the gap between the main plane and the flap must not vary by more than 2 millimeters. For the upcoming Grand Prix in Shanghai, the maximum limit for a certain specification is being cut down to 0.5 millimeters. Given the short time frame, an extra tolerance of 0.25 millimeters will be allowed. This change was shared with the teams early Monday on March 17th. The FIA also confirmed that during the Melbourne event, all cars complied with Article 315.17, proving they were legal for racing. This update raises eyebrows because there's usually no need to change the rule if there's nothing suspicious about the car's rear wings. However, the situation seems different, especially since Red Bull, through their technical director Pierre Walsh, has been quite outspoken about this matter. They might have insight we don't know about yet, making Walsh's previous remarks seem insightful rather than dismissible. He pointed out flexibility in the rear wings on the McLaren and Ferrari vehicles during pre-season testing in Bahrain, stating, "It is still going on. Clearly, there's more to this story than meets the eye." It seems like Ferrari and McLaren are still using the Mini DRS trick. The fact that stricter tests are being introduced early in the season suggests one clear outcome. Cars that have taken advantage of loopholes in the rules might see a big drop in their performance, but there's another element at play. The race in China is known for its tough track, and if the weather stays dry, it'll provide a real challenge for teams like Ferrari, who have a lot to prove. Interestingly, not too long ago, Walsh mentioned that Ferrari had been gaining significantly from the Mini DRS, which implies they might struggle more once the new regulations come into effect over the next few races. With the FIA confirming that everything is in order from the team's side, it will be intriguing to watch how they handle the front wing flexibility issue. Initially, we expected these checks to start by the Barcelona GP, the 9th race of the season. There are now cameras on the front wings watching how they flex in both slow and fast corners. The FIA has also added similar cameras to the rear wing, which could give them plenty of information to determine if teams have been bending the rules too much. Helmut Marko is likely thrilled since he's been the most vocal about this issue, aside from Pierre Walsh. Walsh argued that applying these regulations could greatly reduce the gap between the MCR39 and the RB21. Many thought he was being unrealistic, assuming the experienced Austrian was just trying to influence the FIA due to his team's underperformance. However, now that it's clear this wasn't the case, The FIA's new rules are sure to impact Red Bull's strongest rivals. The big question is whether the Woking-based team's entire performance boost comes from this rear wing flexing, especially since they've shown exceptional skill in managing tyre wear. Verstappen, the four-time world champion himself, admitted that he struggled with tyre performance against the McLarens. As his tyres started to degrade, the MCL39 easily pulled ahead, building a 15-second lead. Expanding on this topic and offering a grim prediction for the near future, Verstappen commented, "The race was both fun and intense, and our result was positive. Overtaking the McLarens was tough, and we faced issues with our tyres overheating and wearing out quickly. This problem is more noticeable with intermediate tyres since they're softer than slicks. The McLarens managed their tyre temperatures better and easily outpaced us. We definitely need to improve our tyre management. As for how teams will adapt to the FIA's changes, it's clear that the adjustments will be significant since they're coming into effect right at the season's beginning. The teams have been given the go-ahead in Melbourne, but they've been instructed to make more modifications for the race scheduled 1 week after Australia's. This might seem confusing, but there's a method to the madness. We're here to watch how teams adjust with the new rear wing. According to Vasseur, we can expect to see a revamped Ferrari from Shanghai onwards, so let's not dwell too much on the Australian Grand Prix. The upcoming race in China will provide a whole new perspective due to its conditions and cooler temperatures. With the air being colder, teams like Mercedes might perform better than they did in Australia's blistering heat. Additionally, the long straight in Shanghai will be a crucial test for the flexibility of the rear wing. If Red Bull's predictions are accurate, we might witness an even more intense version of Verstappen than we're used to. Meanwhile, Ferrari has sparked plenty of discussion. Although their last season is one they'd like to forget, they are fully focused on the upcoming race in China, where expectations are sky high. These expectations may have formed before new restrictions on rear wing flexibility. The outcome will depend on how Leclerc and Hamilton perform. The FIA is clearly fed up with teams exploiting these technical loopholes, and the next two races will shed light on whether Red Bull was justified in challenging their rivals' rear wings, starting with the pre-season tests in Bahrain. With all these developments, do you believe the FIA made the right call on the rear wing rules? And if so, which teams do you think will gain or lose the most from this decision? Thank you for watching. If you have any thoughts on this topic, just leave a comment below and let's discuss. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel and activating the bell such that you won't miss any new videos. If you are into Formula One, you can check out my channel page. There are many more videos like this which you can watch in the meantime until a new video gets released. See you soon in the next video.